That's what
There's
I was thinking.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a group on YouTube that has all the recordings. You can just go there and yeah, so yeah. But I would pay $9 a month if that was, you know,
Well,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a group on YouTube that has all the recording. Go again. All right. So Sharon and Dove and Happy, good morning. This mic is
Kairos,
on
hi,
yours.
Kairos.
Okay.
Cora, hi, Cora.
Cora, hi. Kyra's hi. Hi, hi.
Morning,
Now,
Laura. Good to see
hi,
you, sweetie.
Cora. Okay. All right. So who you want me to start or for you to start? Doesn't
Uh,
matter.
I can start. You know,
Okay.
good morning, Cora, Kairos, everybody in ACIM Gather on Pal Talk, and anyone listening on ACIM Gather Radio. And also people on YouTube, because we're streaming live on YouTube as well. It's wonderful. So I'm going to start with today's lesson. Today's lesson is lesson 151. All things are echoes of the voice for God. And Ken Wapnick's commentary is, by calling on the Holy Spirit's witnesses and not the egos, we're able to move beyond our perception of differences and separate interests that are inherent in the body's perception. Hmm. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little about that as well, because when you value what the ego values, you're valuing something that is nothing, and you believe in something that's not true, and you think it's true. There's really no difference between your valuing of form and valuing of content. If the form is valueless, the content is valueless. So it goes on to say, to the vision of unity and shared purpose inherent in the mind of God's one Son. So either we are unified in sharing one purpose, which is the same purpose, and purpose has meaning, and the only meaning that has any, the only thing that has any meaning is God. God is, and then you cease to speak. Now, what is God? It's not a three-letter word. God is love, unconditional love, infinite love, eternal love. There's nothing but the love of God. There's nothing but the peace of God. But the Son of God, who listens to the belief system of the ego that values things of this world that does not exist, will actually believe in things that are not true and think that they are true. I came across something just this morning. Actually, it's in today's reading. Today's let me just take a quick look at what today's textbook reading is. Today's textbook reading is it's text chapter 14, section 2, The Happy Learner. And I never, even though I've read The Happy Learner a few times, hoping to be a happy learner, I never came across this particular thing until today. You notice that you only see something when you're ready to see it. And this is what it says. And I'll post it up here on the board so everybody can see it. Hold on one second. I'll post it in 1 second, and then we'll look at it. It says, you will believe that nothing is of value, and you will value it. A little piece of glass, like a diamond, a speck of dust, like a body, a war. All these things are one to you because you think that they mean something. For if you value one thing made of nothing, you have believed that nothing can be precious and that you can learn, listen up, and you can learn how to make the untrue true. I mean, I never came across that. But if your belief system is believing in nothing and thinking that nothing is something and valuing something that's really nothing, you're also going to do the same thing with your belief in content. Content being the idea that well, I know who God is, and I hope God doesn't find me, and you think that these things mean something, but they're completely false. They are nothing in the form of something. And then I went a little bit further in the same in the same section, the happy learner, and I came across this. I don't know. I just installed Windows 11, so I'm not doing as quickly as I used to do. But okay, I'm getting used to Windows 11. It goes on to say, for if you value one thing made of nothing, you believe that nothing can be precious and that you can learn how to make the untrue true. Here's what I did not know. Well, I didn't know any of this until today, actually. Let me see if I can put this up in the chat so that everybody could see it. Okay, I'm going to put it up right now. And it says, when you believe something that you have made it true for you. When you believe what God does not know, when you believe what God does not know, in other words, you're believing in something that God doesn't believe in, your thought seems to contradict his. Listen to this last part of the sentence. And this makes it appear as if you're attacking him. So that's the idea that if you have a thought system that opposes another thought system, that's really an attack. And you might say, in this world, everybody's thought system opposes everybody's thought system. No wonder we talk about attack. You got to laugh, really. Simply, you got to laugh. And with that, I'm going to turn this mic on over to you, Sharon.
Okay. So today's lesson is all things are echoes of the voice for God. And it's a reminder that if we are listening to the ego, we're going to believe that this world is real. There's nothing real about this world. This world is built on nothingness. There's nothing here but God, right? And the forms that we see, we're really hallucinating them just in a story. So Ken Wapnick goes on to say this lesson highlights two themes that are vital to an understanding of the ego's thought system, the role of judgment and the importance of the body. The idea, all things are echoes of the voice for God, continues the review statement. My mind holds only what I think with God. It's impossible if we really look at this that we could be thinking anything really, because who we are, in all lessons, but, of course, I was just, guided to 138, where, it's so clear if you read this whole lesson, we are not there. We are in God, and this is just a dream that's meaningless. But to get to that part of the ladder in time, it seems to take a while, right? And that's why it's called a process. Well, no, heaven is the decision. I am as God created me. That's the one that I was looking at. All of them. I accept the atonement for myself. When you think of the atonement, it's basically saying that you were never here, right? Because the atonement said nothing happened. Well, how can that be? Look, I'm talking. Well, what's talking are just, it seems like a body's talking, but it really isn't. It's just thought that's talking to each other. There's no, the being is watching all of it. So the reason, Ken goes on to say, that vision induces fear. So if we see that we value anything more than who we really are, we're just in a wild goose chase. We can't win. This is a failed system. Okay, the world is a failed system on purpose, because how could we function if God or the creator isn't with us in this, right? So this is an imagined world with imagined people, and all the people are projected from our imagined minds, but it's all imagination. You know, great story is Pinocchio, right? I mean, we want to go back to being, you know, who we really are. Not the character. The character's meaningless, like Pinocchio was, right? But he wanted to grow into a boy. What was real? Well, what's real for us is spirit. Human being is not reality. Human being is just a screen where we see these puppets that are managing a world seeming on their own, when in fact no one's managing on their own, because essence is doing it all, right? Essence is what all of us are. It brings us all together. Love's essence. So what he's bringing back to tell us today is that judgment, how can that be? How can we judge another when you really, really sit with that? If we don't know them from the beginning to the end, we don't know them. We only know our own mind. So that's the first thing. When we judge, we're like, well, he doesn't think like I think. And if he doesn't think like I think, then he's just wrong. These are all the thinking mind's activity. And the activity of the thinking mind is complete illusory. It's a dream. It's absolute meaningless. So in the lesson, you know, I am as God created me, Jesus is very emphatic that we never left God. The atonement, we never left God. Now, it doesn't mean that we have a world and we're in God too, because we're not really in a world. We're imagining a world. This is not our reality. But what we have are symbols here. So what this world is, it's a symbol of heaven in the sense that it's a reflection. So if we see it with complete, just reality, and we don't see our imagined ideas on the screen, we're in this oneness, right? Nisargadatta Maharaj would say, when you go inward, it's wisdom. But when you go out, you see that everything's love, because you see the interconnectedness of everything. And how does that happen? Well, depending on your, what your atonement plan is. But for me, I see the space that appears to be invisible is alive. There's an aliveness that connects everything. And yet, what is everything but nothing? Because it's all made of one consciousness, right? So let's get back to judgment. If I judge Dub, I'm judging him on my own beliefs. You see, I cannot judge anyone without putting Sharon into it. And Sharon is an idea, so why would I care at this point? Why wouldn't I take 100% responsibility for this process and the certainty that you know that you were really never here, that you're a shadow in a dream that's meaningless? Now, there was a time when I was, studying the course, in many years, of course, that I realized that, I still didn't think that this wasn't real. Why? Because that's just where I was. So what I feel, was a plus for this mind was to be honest. And now I am honest, and I'm saying nothing happened. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing here but ideas, and, in the manual, it says, it is necessary for the teacher of God to realize not that he should not judge, but he cannot. In giving up judgment, he's merely giving up what he did not have. In order to judge anything rightly, one would have to be fully aware of an inconceivably wide range of things, past, present, and to come. One would have to recognize in advance all the effects of his judgments on everyone and everything involved in them in any way. But the ego operates basically on judgment. It can't operate on anything but judgment. It's really a judgment machine. So, with the directives that we're getting from our brothers, like, Jesus, Joel Goldsmith, whoever it may be, they're all for us to sit with, to actually take it into contemplation and realize at no time does the body exist. And that is the truth. all we're seeing are ideas on a screen, and we're taking so much responsibility for these ideas because of where we are on the ladder. But the ladder keeps going up. You really can't miss this, because you know what? You're always as God created you, because there's no form. This is all just imaginations. It says here that conflicts of any kind, it's just this the Holy thought system is one of conflict. And I don't know why I would be surprised to see an election the way I do now, because it's filled on conflict. But to an ego, we think we're going to get our way here. We think we're going to get the president we want. We think we're going to get the house we want. We think we're going to get the spouse we want. It's all about our training wheels. This is the Earth School. We are here to grow our consciousness. We are here to love one another and represent He who sent me. And who would the He be? Well, that's just spirit. That's God, right? And if you're here right now in this process, you've been sent by the higher self. Of course, you're not special. And that's the one part I want to really talk about right now. Is it's the hardest addiction to give up specialness, because there was an idea that we would be special here, and we made these great people that are all special, or we're a loser, one or the other. You see that the contrast is never, ever peaceful. Because if you are really fantastic, you can't in duality not have the opposite. So any kind of opinion, even when I say, oh, I love her, she's so nice, that's still an opinion, right? That's still a measurement on the personhood. And we don't need to do that anymore. Because if we see sameness in the oneness, which is just it's a reflection of heaven, we have a memory of just loving and the lightness of life to not take one thing seriously. Over to you.
All right. That was fantastic. I like the way you close it out. Yes, as long as you have opinions and thoughts that make somebody special, you're not in the content of sameness or equality. And it's that sameness and equality that's really necessary to remember truth. Truth is the same for all. It's certainly not different. And in this world, it's different for everyone. Everyone has their own truth, and they believe in what they believe is true. Not too different than when we were saying here earlier. If you value something that is valueless, you are also believing in something that is untrue, and you think it's true because you think that you can give value to things by saying, oh, this is precious. And then what you think is precious will probably oppose what God sees as real. And you're really attacking yourself. Talking about the body, well, I'm gonna put up a couple of things here. One is what Ken Wapnick says about the body. I'll put it up here in the chat. You were talking about, the world is a classroom, and that's I think it was Karen who mentioned the word classroom is only mentioned one time in the Course of Miracles, and Ken has certainly made it like a household word. And I have too. I see that our life, the life of the body, is your classroom. So Ken says, if you deny the body, you're denying the only textbook that Jesus can use to teach us his lessons. So we come here to learn lessons. There's no two ways about that. But, you can't just keep on learning lessons, or there's always going to be more lessons to learn. Sooner or later, you got to realize the purpose of the lessons is to learn forgiveness, because only through forgiveness can the lesson really be learned. And as you learn forgiveness, and as you teach forgiveness to yourself, you actually lighten up and your belief in things that do not exist, things that are untrue, that are unreal, falls away, and you're ready to recognize that you're doing this to yourself, which means I'm the dreamer of the dream, which is in chapter 27, section 7. And that's really the goal of the course. When he talks about resurrection, he's really speaking about waking up from the dream. I mean, you don't have to resurrect from your body. You have to wake up from the dream that you're not a body. But then Ken Wapnick says, yes, you're not a body, but if you deny the body, you're denying the only textbook Jesus can use to teach us his lessons. It's like saying to a teacher, here's a school. There's no classroom, no textbook, no students. I want you to teach. Your life is your lessons. Your life is what it is that is your whiteboard, blackboard, books, whatever. And then goes on to say the classroom is our life. The students are the decision-making minds, and the curriculum is our life experiences. So there's no accident that you go through these life experiences. And I'm writing an article for Miracles Magazine based on we had a guest here, Rob Schwartz. Well, actually, he was on John Mundy's program too, but he was here as well, thanks to I think it was Myrna and Susan Michelle. He was here, and I think that I call the article "Seeing the Dark Side of the Moon." The moon is there; it's always been there, but because it revolves around the Earth, and in such a way you can only see the side of the moon that's facing the Earth. You never see the other side of the moon, which is called the dark side of the moon. The only way you can see it is by going there and seeing it. That's what Rob Schwartz actually does. He says, for those people who say, why is this happening to me? Why am I learning these lessons? I mean, so that's the ego protesting and arguing that this is unfair. And as Jesus says, beware of the temptation to perceive yourself unfairly treated. Of course, you're not being unfairly treated. You came here to learn that lesson. That's why you're here. You must say, well, why me? What does that got to do with me? Yeah. Well, actually, you asked for it and you received it exactly as you have asked. What do you mean I asked for it? I don't remember asking for it. Well, take a look at chapter 21, section 2, responsibility for sight. And what does he say? He says, everything that seems to happen to me, I have asked for and I have received exactly as I have asked. Huh? I don't remember asking for it. Well, that's right. That's the dark side of the moon. We don't see how the lessons are, or the curriculum that you come here into this classroom in your life experiences is something that the script is already written. You have already agreed with the people in your life to teach you these particular kinds of lessons. And he tells you this in chapter 29, section 4, called Dream Roles. And what does Dream Roles say? No one in your life, in your dream, can do anything to you except the role that you assign to them to do to you. So why would I do that? Well, without going into his 5 reasons why you would do it, most of them is to balance out your karma. You're probably doing the same thing to that person, and now they're coming back and doing the same thing to you. Why? Hi, Regis. How are you, love? With that, I'll turn this mic back on over to you, Sharon. And I want to say, if anyone wants to share, whether it's Kairos, Cora, Mikhail, Regis, Len, please share. That's the community of ACIM Gather. All are created equal.
Also, we like it when they share because it's community sharing. And that is really when we have an idea and we share them, it grows stronger, as we all know, right? So when we look at this lesson today, it's basically talking about, a lot about the fact that we can't not be thinking with God because we're in God, right? When it says, the only thoughts I think are with God, you're not really sitting there with God and thinking either, because when you're in God, you see only unity and love. But again, like I said before, this is a reflection of heaven. This is not, we are still in heaven because nothing happened. This was a tiny mad idea. And with that, the power of the Big Bang came. And every time we fall under the spell of believing we're these people and believing that there's something in this world that we can get, we are really falling back into the Big Bang, because the Big Bang gets played over and over again. I think when the Course is saying, that, we ask for everything, we ask for separation. Now, do I know if I ask for specifics? Well, it's hard for me to understand on a mind level what's true, what isn't true, because the mind of the ego can't know any of it. So just saying, yeah, I picked my parents, no big deal. It's taking it like to really mean that you, Sharon, picked your parents. I don't know that for a fact. What difference does it make? I picked separation. That's what this whole thing is. And what is separation? It's pain. When we're separate, we feel all the feelings that we do not want. And that's what we got when we had that idea. And sometimes to remain special, we continue with that. But then when we see that the specialness is hurting us, isn't Sharon so nice? There she is standing out above all her brothers and sisters. That's really what the ego is about. It doesn't want to be in that oneness. It wants the specialness. It wants to separate itself. It wants the opinions, and it wants to be right. And there's nothing right in a world that is a fantasy. It's complete dream made up. And the thoughts that are in our minds are covering up. Like when it says love holds no grievances. Well, when you have a grievance, you're stopping the flow, because that's how powerful we are. And what is the flow? Well, the flow's through us. The flow is being here right now. The ego's biggest problem is it doesn't want to be in the present moment, because we'll remember who we are. The holy instant, that's all we are. And it's somehow, when you really see that everything you believed was a lie or a story, like any story. And I love to watch movies. I still love to watch them and lose myself in a story, because, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's taking it seriously where the problem comes in, And the way I see it is it's certainly the trust that develops is organic. It's not like the person can ever trust anybody. How could it? It doesn't know why it's here. It doesn't know what it is. So it's really the trust develops as we see who we really are, as we see at a vision. When we're in vision, we see that none of this is real. None of it. It's all just completely, actually just a world of toys. That's what we are. It's just a world. And that's why we love toys, because we made this world like toys, and it's all the toys that who's going to win and who's going to lose. But nobody ever wins if someone loses, because we're one. Nobody ever feels good when they, why are we uncomfortable when we hurt another? Because they're us. There's only one. And that saying basically is you hurt yourself because it's your thoughts that are in the way of the flow. How important is it for you to hate that brother? Well, to an ego, it's very important. But when you start to get the benefits of freedom, well, then, the way I see it, the divine will just sets in and it says, okay, I'm cleaning this crap up. You don't need this. You are the Son of God. You need to know that majesty is in you as it is in your Father, right? So there's no difference. So as far as I see it with the echoes, it's very important for us to realize the echo of God is the fact that we don't even have to hear echoes. We are that. It's a reminder of what we are, but we are that. One thing about Ken Wapnick that I see in all his stuff is he's a fabulous teacher, and he's also very long-winded. And that's okay, because he goes into the depth of taking things so deep that you have the clarity that you are not there. There's a voice that's speaking. There's a seeming body. Sometimes just through contemplation, I'll say, did I ever really see Sharon grow? Like, she's now in the dream 69. Now, did I see what she looked like from 60 to 69? Oh, no, I'll say this is a memory. But really, is it a memory, or is that really the truth? I mean, you can't watch yourself grow. You appear in the dream, and you're only in the dream when you're thinking of the past or the future. When you're in the holy instant, there's no you, because you're not thinking. That's the whole point. The thinking mind is the disturbance in this process. And to go home every moment of every day is to be happy, to be a happy learner. What's a happy learner? A happy learner is one that knows that I don't need this anymore. I can't get anything because it's not my reality. It's a game. If I would leave this world famous and I've done all these wonderful things, do you think that would matter? Nothing matters but God, love, right? So, the other point in this is to always realize you're teaching yourself. Okay, so in the course, it says teaching but reinforces what you believe about yourself. Its fundamental purpose is to diminish self-doubt. So, you get up in front of people and you start to teach, but you have to keep in mind you're never teaching them because they're not there. It's all your projections that are there that you're teaching, but you're reinforcing the truth of who you are, right? So this does not mean that the self you are trying to protect is real, but it does mean that the self you think is real is what you teach. Why would you teach something that's not real? The only reason is because it will yield. It will not fight continuously. A lot of people say till the end, the ego will still bring things up. Well, so what? What's it bringing up? The whole point and the whole secret to this path is do not take one thing seriously in this dream. Not awakening, not awakening, not success, none of it. It's all concepts. And thoughts are talking to thoughts. But the great self, the infinite self, just watching it all and bringing us home and saying, brothers, you are mistaken. You're dreaming of a world that could never happen. How could we usurp the Creator? How? And how could a loving God ever be angry with us? No one would be angry with us, right? The body and the world are the irrational defenses that defend against the irrational uncertainty in our minds. And what is uncertainty? I still think it's a little real. It could be, maybe, oh boy, if I get that operation, that's pretty real. Yes, it's real in the experience, but it's not reality. And it's not really happening to you. It's just happening. These are thoughts. There's no body there. These thoughts are talking to each other. And if you can imagine that, there's a lot of cartoon movies that kind of represent that. And where thoughts are just talking to thoughts. And we always laugh, like, Inside Out. That's a huge popular movie among children. And it's all about our feelings talking to each other. Well, that's basically what is happening here. The biggest gift I have from this process is one thing, and that is laughter. I have never laughed so hearty from anything in my life than the times that the truth broke through. And I just cracked up laughing and said, oh my God, what I put myself through. Over to you, Doug.
You got to laugh, really. And see, in your gentle laughter that you wake up. I mean, this whole course is about waking up. Do you take anything here seriously? you're out of your gourd, literally. I mean, that's the ego. It's out of its gourd, insane, crazy. So just before I start again, if anyone wants to share, just please raise your hand. We're more than glad to turn this mic on over to anyone here who wants to share. I thought your teaching was fabulous, Sharon. Sharon sharing fabulously. I'm going to take a short detour to something that I have, as you probably know, I teach twice a week at Maureen Muldoon, Sundays and Wednesday morning. So she has a what I call it Maureen's prayer, because I think she wrote it. It's about 3-4 paragraphs long, something like that. I don't know. And I realize I've been reading it now for a couple of years at least, and I asked her on it was yesterday, Wednesday, if I can use the only paragraph in the Course in Miracles that I really identify with. It comes from chapter 6, section chapter 1, chapter 1, section 6, paragraph 2, and it's in the chat. And I don't know if it came in late, maybe you can't see it, but I'll put it up there again. I'll also put it in the room, or maybe Lynn might. Thanks, Lynn. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need to correct. I like the word only. He uses only a lot, and to me, only means this is for you. Don't miss it. It's the only lack you really need to correct. So, in this course, people spent years and years and years going to see all the famous teachers, people who basically, like Keith, was listening to him, thanks to Cora. She invited me last Sunday to Keith, and he was saying, thanks to Ken Wapnick. What a miracle Ken Wapnick is. He's such a miracle that he happened to be there. And I'm saying to myself, there's no accident that he was there. You think it's an accident that Ken Wapnick just showed up at Bill and Helen's door and became the teacher of the course for all time? Really? You think that those things happen by accident? Really? So it says, a sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need to correct. So, yeah, you think you want something, you need to learn something, you got to get something. I mean, no, that's been on the hamster wheel. Seek and do not find. There's nothing out there for you to get or to learn. You already have everything, but you have a sense of separation from God. That's why this world was made. The world was made as a answer to I'm separate from God, so I'm going to make a world that's even more special, bigger, better, more magnificent, more colorful. Oh yeah, a lot of nice rainbow colors. I heard yesterday dogs cannot see colors. Anyway, it says this sense of separation would never have arisen if you had not distorted your perception of truth. I distorted my perception of truth. I must be valuing things that have no value at all. Remember we were saying that just a few minutes ago? And thus you perceive yourself as lacking, and that's a mistaken perception. That's all it is. You never left the mind of God. We never left the mind of God. We are one. We are one. So going along with that, there's a big right now movement from people who are doing the course to people like Joel Goldsmith. I mean, I didn't realize that Cindy and Regis did a whole homily this past Sunday at Regina's on it, and then I listened to it thanks to Lynn. She played it just yesterday morning. I listened to it, and then I happened to see Cindy and Regis yesterday. We go to a Zoom every Wednesday morning at 10:30, and I realized, wow. I mean, Cindy tells me, she goes to sleep every night listening to Joel, and then there was someone else in the room. I forgot who. I think it was Melissa, who says she has him on all night, and she wakes up sometimes. She hears Joel, and then she hears something else. So there's a lot of people listening to Joel who used to do the course, or was doing the course, and like Joel passed in 1964, and Helen started hearing this voice in 1965, and she called it Jesus. This Jesus talking to me. Yeah. And then along comes this guy, Ken. I heard you say, Ken is really a great teacher, but he's long-winded, but that's good. He goes very deep. Yeah. How many voices are there? There's Joel, there's Jesus, there's Ken. I think they're different voices, really? I must be valuing the ideas that there's different names. There's Joel, there's Jesus, there's Ken. What's the possibility that they're all the same one? Then all of a sudden it just came to me. Isn't that a question that appears in the teacher's manual? Section 12, my favorite section. How many teachers of God are needed to save the world? Let's see, maybe there's 2 or 3 or 4. No, the answer to this question is one. One holy, perfect teacher whose learning is so complete suffices. This one, sanctified and redeemed, becomes the self, capital S self, who, capital W, is the Son of God. Let's see, maybe he has different names like Joel, Ken, Jesus. No, there's only one. You gotta laugh. I keep on reading, but most of you know how the rest of this goes. He who was always spirit now no longer sees himself as a body, different bodies, different names, or even as in a body. Therefore, he is limitless. Let's see, who do I know that is limitless? Is there anyone that God created that is limited at all, ever? Really? You gotta laugh. Anyone want to share on any of this? Anyone? Regis, Mikhail, Cora, Kairos, Len, Sharon?
Well, I'm your sharing partner, so I guess I will. I like what you said about one, because it is really only one. I was once in Awakening Together, and they were talking about how they weren't going to wake up. And I don't know, it was just a group in there. And I said, well, there's only one awakening. I mean, we're not special. If we start to awaken, it's not because we worked hard. It's not because we earned it. It's like Jiffy popcorn. We get popped. Somehow, though, a lot of us in this process remember as children that we've had spiritual experiences. I had one when I was a little girl, a couple of them. So We're not shocked that we're in this, but we are shocked that none of this meant anything. And that I'm not here 69 years. I'm not even here. I'm talking in a mind stream. I'm talking through a mind stream who seemingly seems so real because look where I am. I'm in God. So of course it seems real. Once we put our attention, there are two things that are very, very valuable. Our intention and our attention. When we have an intention that we only want God and we become more one pointed, the message goes through us, but it's not coming from an ego because an ego doesn't even know what that means. The ego still believes in religion. The ego still believes, not that it's wrong, because religion can take you all the way too, I'm sure, as it has to some. That the Course in Miracles has a mind training, and the mind training that it's doing is it's just unfolding mind. I remember in the very beginning of me studying the Course, I was teaching, and I would do a lesson, and this spaciousness would show up, and I felt great. Now, it's not always like that when you do that. The spiritual path can get very, very bumpy. But for who? For a character that's not your reality, that a character that you don't take seriously. And it's not about anything but seeing everything as perfection. Allowance is everything. Allow everything as it is. The ego has an aversion to the present moment. It will tell you to get something to eat. It'll tell you to watch something. It doesn't want you to just sit with it. Because it doesn't know what we are, but it knows we're taking our attention off of it. And our intention is not that. Oh, there's Regis. Okay. All right, Regis, come on. We love when you come on. Come on.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, the conversation that you and Dove is having, that we all are having, is just really great. Just as Dove was talking about the one voice and all these many different vessels, I guess, or personalities that voice come through, I thought about one of the Bible verses where it was always said, "He that has an ear, let him hear." So it's really just about our hearing. It's an interesting thing we was talking about here at my house a couple of nights ago. I was reminding my wife, I said, well, you see me, you witness me listening to everybody. It don't matter whether they evangelical Christians, whether they Course in Miracles. It don't matter who the vessel is, because I can hear truth. And it doesn't matter what set of words they use, what references they use. He that has an ear, let him hear. And then, Sharon, you came right back after Dove, and I love the illustration that you used. And I've never heard anybody use that about if we awaken at all, it's because we got popped. I love it because here's the thing though. What causes a grain of corn to pop? You got to turn up the heat. And sometimes we're too quick to try to define love. Sometimes love is turning up the heat so that we can pop, so that we can awaken. And we get into immediate resistance. When the heat turns up, it can get turned up through relationship. It can get turned up through finances. It can get turned up through sickness. It can get turned up in all kind of numerous ways. And so I've been noticing in the last month or more that many people come into our gatherings and they're understanding even Dove mentioned Cindy, uh, and different people are understanding that we got to stop rescuing our loved ones. That's not our business. That's not our job. Maybe the heat is being turned up so that they can awaken. But we said, no, God, you don't know what you're doing. Turn the heat back down. They don't need to go through this. They don't need to suffer this pain. It's really not suffering, but we get out, we get involved, and we say, oh no, let me rescue you. Let me turn the heat back down so that you can't pop. Now we interfering with the process, whether that's in our own life or someone else's. We're so quick to say, it's many ways to say this shouldn't happen. We may not be using those words, saying, oh, this shouldn't happen, but our reaction and the words that we're choosing, we're really saying, oh no, this shouldn't happen. This shouldn't be happening to this person. Let me jump in and stop it. So when we jump in and try to stop it, then we really turning the heat back down so that that grain of corn won't pop. And that popping, as you said, Sharon, is that awakening. So thanks for that revelation.
Thank you. Thank you. I love when you share, Regis. I feel that, there's no work in this. Some spiritual teachers claim that you should be meditating a couple hours a day. You need to read the whole course through and through. That's not at all what I've seen, actually. What's appeared in my vision is that a lot of people that wake up just wake up. They don't even, there are people that have had, I'm reading a book called A Collision with the Infinite. I've read it before, and now I'm reading it again because I love how she wrote this book. It's Suzanne Siegel. And here's a woman that did a TM kind of meditation, and a couple of years later, she's in Europe and pregnant, and believe it or not, the truth came in and popped her, but it still kept her ego. So she had two parts of her. She had the truth, which is, the enlightened mind right here, right now. And then she had all this terror. And it's just an interesting book because what we learn is, and the course is very, very straightforward. Everyone has an individual curriculum. That's why it's impossible to teach this. In fact, I you know how much I love Keith. Everyone knows that I feel he's a magnificent teacher. I feel he's like Ken with an Irish accent, in fact. But he always says, there is commercial spiritualism, and that's what it's become. But again, we are in a world, so there's nothing wrong with that, because in form we might pay money to get to certain things. But the point is, no one can teach this. The only teacher that will ever exist is the one that's within, because it's not coming from a world. So if a teacher appears in you, it's coming through you as an idea. Whether or not it's the right idea, your inner teacher will decide. Not making the teacher wrong, because no one is wrong and no one is right. It's just an isness. And all these concepts, the concepts that help us bring us home. However, sometimes the concepts that seemingly don't help bring us home too, because, our greatest retreats are our greatest advances. And what does that mean? I mean, I had a really challenging for this mind process. A lot of things appeared to happen, and a lot of the things that I valued very much. And what I've learned is they were all for me. And when I'm going through it, I don't often feel that way. I want it to stop, but that's not me. And that's one thing that I love about Keith's work, Kavanaugh's work. He always says, it's not you. How could it be you? You're here right now. You are the here-ness, the now-ness. You can't be this phantom person, because God is, and we cease to speak, to take our power back and know that all of us are equal. All of us are the same. No one is special. And it's really quite beautiful. It's a great symphony, the one thing that, we ask ourselves a lot is, what am I? If you ask, what am I? And this brings me to a memory years ago when Regina Dawn Akers came out with Deanna Romana. And I think Lynn and Bill Free were at Regina's house. And I was on the phone with Lynn. I don't know if Lynn will remember that. But we were saying, I am that I am. And we were all beginning students, basically, just a couple years in. And when we said, who is the I? And there's nothing there, because there is nothing there. And we would laugh. I would laugh. What do you mean? Why is it when I say, who is the I? There's nothing there. Why? Because it's always been nothing. So all these surprise gifts that come, when it says, asking yourself, what am I? Or if you ask that voice, whom are you speaking to? It's just thought. So anyway, over to you, Dove, to say, oh, okay, Mickey, come on. Yeah, please, come in.
Well, I just want to say thanks. So what a great class. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Regis. Thank you, Dove. Thank you, all of you. And I just had a wonderful classroom yesterday with my elderly mother, because she really holds on to her Bible, and she can send me text messages every day from her Bible and her belief system. But I sent her something, I shared with her something yesterday, and it wasn't from A Course in Miracles. It actually was a beautiful saying from somebody else. And wow, did I get judged. And she sent me a text, not to send her anything anymore. So it's all one-sided. So I just looked at it. It's my classroom, my script, and I have to be kind and compassionate. And the popcorn, as you said, Sharon, the Jiffy Pop, which I used to love as a kid to watch it open up, get hot and pop. It'll pop, and I'll just keep being kind and compassionate and non-judgmental towards my mom. But it's not easy, especially when you have these classrooms with your kids or your parents or your family. It's you really have to step back and look at it. So thank you so much for this classroom this morning. I really
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, though. Like, I think that was a great classroom for you. For one thing that I'm learning, we don't know what another person needs, what another seeming person needs. And there's fear in the mind, all of our minds. And if you're not aware that this isn't all real, and somebody brings something that might not go with what you believe, that can be a lot. But that can be a lot of fear. But it's the intention that you had. Your intention was to love her. So it doesn't really matter how the other person takes it, right? And Doug, do you want to say goodbye? Because Zuma's going to come on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much, Mikhail, for sharing that. And you really have started a lot of popping. We're all popping together. And I think I'm going to go back to how I started this morning. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need correct. And that's true for all of us. We may have different classrooms, curriculums, lessons, but they all lead to the same places, to remember that I never did leave the mind of God. We are one. I mean, that's the purpose of the classroom, is to remember our equality, our sameness, our oneness. So with that, I'm going to thank everyone who's been here, turning this mic back on over to you, Lynn, and Zulma, and it's been another wonderful Thursday.
Thank you guys so very much. Thank you, everyone who's joined in. Please stay with us because Zoma's coming on, and I'm really excited about the series that Zoma has been doing. And what I'm seeing, you guys are talking about Joel. Of course, I played Joel. I've been playing Joel for years. I've been doing that for years. But but honestly, just because I heard the same voice that was the voice of the Course, listening to him, and his voice actually is in my mind. And so when when I'm hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit, it sounds like Joel Goldsmith in my mind. Isn't that crazy? But there we go. Anyway, so now it's time for zone.